Welcome all of you to our EdTalk, our September EdTalk, and we are so happy to have you all here with us. All of you are I6R alum and are comfortable in VR, and we're just happy to share what we've done while enhancing cross-cultural training in VR. As I mentioned, we've both of us are cross-cultural trainers, and we've worked in person and online media, in Zoom and things like that. And then actually having the opportunity to bring it to a VR and experiencing, the immersiveness and the shared space and all the other the characteristics that VR offers has been really great, and we look forward to sharing a sneak peek of what we put together in our 4-week module that that we offer. And so with that, anything you'd like to add, Divya, while I get started?
I think you have it covered, Renu. Go ahead.
All right. And one of the things, and I thought I should share this right in the beginning, we are hot off the press. We're really excited to share that our cross-cultural competence XR, VR XR enhanced program has been selected to be a finalist for the AIXR Awards. So we are very excited about that. Thank you for all the support, for coming in, joining. And I think Divya will be there at the award ceremony in December, and we're hoping that we have good news as well. But actually being nominated as a finalist is something that we're really excited about. So good news, all good news from our end here. So we have about 45 minutes or so, and what we'd like to share with you is taking you through why we really thought the value of adding VR to cross-cultural training, how it gets enhanced from traditional cross-cultural training, how we have been able to add some real life experiences and applications to bring these cross-cultural competencies to life. We'll share a few VR activities that we've been able to incorporate. Of course, we've done a lot more in our actual module, but a few of them, and then share a little bit more about the module that we offer, so that in case you want to share that, you have some information about that as well. So with that, let's move on to let's move on. Yeah, over to you, Divya.
Yeah, so like Renu said, we've both been cross-cultural trainers for, I don't know, I've been over a decade now, Renu. How about you?
Yeah,
About the
myself
same?
as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so we can very confidently talk about what's out there, and this is typically how it flows, right? You start with self-awareness, which is great. You need to have some self-awareness when you talk about cross-cultural competence. So we usually use tools like IRC, GAI, GlobeSmart. There's plenty of tools like that. So it starts with self-awareness. We go to some kind of cultural model like Hofstede or Trompenaars or Erin Meyers, plenty of those out there as well, depending on what you're looking for. And then it quickly moves on to application, typically through case studies, through pop quizzes. How well have you understood these models? How can you connect self-awareness to these cultural models, right? Nothing wrong with it at all, right? We still do it, right, in a traditional setting, Renu. It works well. I mean, depending on the trainer, you can bring a lot of things into a module like this. But what I fell in love with when I joined Edstutia back when it started, I don't know when it was, 2020, 2021, I think, and I was invited to co-develop the first ever cross-cultural
Mm-hmm.
competence module in VR. I did that with Yogini at that point in time, and what I fell in love with very quickly was the possibilities of taking this further from what you see as a traditional cross-cultural training into really dwelling on the competencies that we talk about. So now in traditional programs, we talk about competencies, but we don't really have, and it's no fault of the traditional programs, we really don't have the tools to really delve deeper into the competencies. And that's exactly what we do with our module at Edstutia.
Mm-hmm.
So we, instead of sticking to the theory, we do use theory as well, right, Renu? We
Mm-hmm.
go from
Yep.
self-awareness to the models to application, but we're able to go into different competencies like putting yourself in another shoes, another culture's shoes, right? Adapting your style, and we're able to measure that, right? We're able to devise activities where you can keep middle ground. You can read the air in the room when you're in there somewhere. And storytelling, of course, yeah, you can do it anywhere in any situation. So you don't really need VR for it. But pretty soon we'll show you how we can add that to VR to make it a bit more interesting, right? And this is what we do and we've done these modules and gotten some really fun activities and results out of that through through the things that we do, right? Renu, anything to add there?
Um, well, I just wanted to add that even with the theories that which we for the simple theory like the iceberg theory, for example, even those we are able to bring that to life in VR and use the shared space and immersiveness for that as well. So even with the competencies and the theories, we're able to bring those to life.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the iceberg activity. I wish we could do all these activities, but of
Yeah.
course, for want of time, we've chosen two activities that we typically do within VR during our cross-cultural competence training exercises, right? So typically this happens in session 2 or 3 when we've taught the model, whichever model we're using for that particular batch. And we take them to an office space or an office environment in different parts of the world, and we try to get them to identify the different kind of dimensions at play. So since today we don't have the time to take you through all of the dimensions of Hofstede or any of those other models, what we're simply going to do is take you to a typical office space. There's a meeting going on. Maybe some of you've seen this in our exploratory, but we're going to revisit that. What we would like you to do is immerse yourself in that office space. So the competency we are going to, dig into is reading the air. And I think that's a very important competency for any cross-cultural situation, because we all go into a room, we are ourselves, we've been trained in a certain way to communicate in a certain way, and that's what we do. We're on autopilot mode, right? What if we were all trained to read the air? To read the air well and respond to what we're seeing around rather than just go with who we are. Of course, we need to be who we are, but also if you add to that the mix of just read the air, see how you would respond in such a situation. What are those things that you find uncomfortable? Because that's really what we're talking about in terms of, culture, eh? Those things that you feel in the pit of your stomach that, hey, this I am not comfortable with. There's something up here that I'm not going to be okay with. What if you could recognize that, take distance from it and respond to it rather than react to it? What if you could look around the room and say, oh, these guys are really engaged, or these guys are really zoning out. What would you do differently? How would you try to fit into that situation? So that's the exercise we're going to take part in. We're going to read the air. So as we go through this meeting room with Renu and I, feel free to comment on whatever it is that you are feeling, right? Whatever it is that comes to your mind as you observe this meeting, right? It could be as simple as, hey, that guy's not paying attention, or as complex as, oh, I don't really like what I'm hearing or seeing, right? And then we go into why. Are we ready for that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right.
Okay. Let's transport you into a meeting room. It could be anywhere, but let's observe what we...
So what we're going to do is we're going to touch base this morning on a couple things that
Look around.
I truly hold dear to my heart. Fundamentals.
You can use your
being
keys,
successful,
turn around,
but
look at each
fundamentals
person,
of being
listen.
a senior marketing consultant.
Really use your senses.
Fundamentals
What are you
of
observing?
being a good person. You know, that's huge. What you do here, you know, you got to also try to carry that when you go home. So the fundamentals of a marketing rep and as a person, to me, I mean, these are some of the things that I carry out day in and day out. I'm always having fun, having a good time. I'm not typically the kind of
Okay, let's pause here for a moment. Any initial observations? It can be a very simple thing.
Mhm.
They were all casually dressed.
Aha.
Ah.
Okay, very good observation.
Most of
Sabra.
them.
Yeah, most of them are casually dressed. Yeah. Except this guy on the left here, right? To
He's in a
my
suit.
10
Yes,
o'clock, I want to
that's
say.
right.
It's just, yeah, he's in a suit.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
he's
what
more
else? I
similar
think
to the,
Sandra.
yeah,
Mhm.
he's more similar,
Sorry, what?
actually picking up on the dress code, he's more similarly dressed to the person who's speaking.
Mhm.
Shirt and sacco of sort, of jacket of sort.
Very good.
I noticed
Up-
that I wondered if these people had ever had a meeting together before this meeting
Mm.
because
Mhm.
I felt like they were all looking at each other. Like, how come she's wearing a
Mhm.
flannel shirt? And wow, that's a beautiful scarf. And, you know, they were all kind of still, I think, figuring
Getting
out
to
who
know each
everybody was
other.
in the room.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Are you all seeing
Yeah.
something that I'm not seeing? Are we in the amphitheater?
Yes.
No,
We are in a
We,
we're in a meeting room, Karen. What are you seeing? What do you see
but we're
around
still in
I'm
the
in-
amphitheater.
We're still in the amphitheater.
you? Mm-hmm.
it's a 360 video.
Oh, I'm not
That's
in
good.
this.
Thank
I'm
you.
not in the 360 video.
Oh,
Oh.
what do you see around you, Karen?
Just you guys in the
Spinning
amphitheater.
Oh.
around in a circle.
Oh, right.
Oh.
Does
And
anybody else have that?
Sorry.
Does
Anyone
anybody
else
else have
having that?
pattern?
Ola?
Ola?
No, I'm good. We had a little bit of breakout because I shared my headset with Michael, so that he can also see how it looks from the point of VR goggles. So I missed part of your discussion, but as a bonus, Michael got a chance to actually see what it means to see that whole situation through VR goggles and not Zoom casting. So sorry
Right.
for that.
No, no
Maybe
worries. But
Steve,
you
if
are
he's
in a...
here.
Yeah.
I was just going to say if Steve is, I know he may be here, if he could maybe help Karen, but if not, I'm not
Don't
sure.
worry. Don't worry. I've
We'll,
seen
yeah.
360 videos before. It's okay.
Right, right.
Yeah. Ola, are you in the DFS marketing room as we speak? Just to confirm that you're on the same
Yes,
page as
yes,
everyone else. Okay, wonderful.
yes.
Helena, I noticed that you had something to say before.
Yeah, it looks like they are
Yeah.
not very engaged,
Mm-hmm.
especially some more than others, but none of them
Yeah.
seem to be very enthusiastic about what the speaker is saying.
Yeah. No, these are some great observations,
Yeah.
right? From the dress code to whether they know each other to lack of engagement. These are amazing, observations to make. What would you do
Yeah.
if you were if you were sitting on a chair in a corner? There's no empty chair here, but you were sitting there. What would that mean for how you would behave when you come into a meeting like this?
I just wanted to pause and ask Karen if you would exit and come back, you may be able to come
Okay.
back into this space. So, all right,
Okay.
go ahead
Thanks,
with your
Karen.
thoughts.
Thank you. I almost
Well,
think that
yeah.
everybody should have some sort of an agenda printed out or electronically sent to them because some have notes that they're taking notes, some
Mhm.
don't. I
Yeah.
think they, you know, and then go through line by line and they can highlight these areas touched on and then they can refer back to it. Or,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know, if it's sent
Great.
electronically,
Thanks,
they
Erin.
pull
also
it up on their laptop.
And
my feeling was it's strange that none of them have a laptop.
laptop.
Ah, very good
Yes,
observation.
yes.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah.
Or a phone.
I think it might just be an old video.
Yes.
Maybe
Well,
they introduced some
but that's okay.
meeting
Yeah.
rules. You know, maybe there is
Well,
there are some meeting rules
Maybe
we're
there's,
not
yeah,
aware of.
could be.
I think so, yeah, because
Yeah.
if there was a 360 camera in the room, I'm sure there were laptops and phones at that time too. And so I don't think it's that old a video, but it's a good thought. Maybe it's meeting rules, eh?
Could
And
be.
there's
Could
no
be.
way to present
And then
anything.
most people have a
Oh, there's no way.
notepad.
Mm-hmm.
Most people,
Mm-hmm.
except one person, the guy with the red shirt.
At the back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He doesn't.
think the
But
woman in
everyone
the
else
pink
has this
shirt-
A4 notepad and a pen. So that seems to be the done thing here. So you were asking if I joined this meeting, I would probably feel compelled having to, okay, I need to have something to take notes here because everybody else is having something. I don't want to stick out here. Yeah,
Yeah,
stand
and
out
probably
here.
not bring your laptop and your phone in, right? Because you
Yeah.
would be standing out from the crowd. Yeah.
Well,
Very good.
the first thing you need to do too, I think, is just sit down, bring in a chair.
Otherwise,
True.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Did anybody notice that it was
Getting
Christmas?
very
Yes, I
yeah,
did.
Merry
professional
Christmas,
version
it
of
says
eye
above the
roll
red
vibes from
guy.
this group. They're not actually
Yeah.
rolling their eyes, but it just seems like
Yeah.
they don't actually.
Let's
They're
move
also
deeper.
a
deep
very
Go
and
ahead.
are waiting for him.
Go
They're
ahead,
not
Ola.
actually trying to take notes.
various
They just don't want to look like the person not taking notes.
dress codes, from
Mhm.
sweatshirts
Yes.
and hoodies to suits and a shirt,
Yeah.
and everything in between, right? So it, yeah, we have
Yeah.
a windstopper jacket. We have, yeah, what do they call it? The checkered flannel shirt,
Yeah.
a lumberjack kind of, right?
Mhm.
And then we have
Mhm.
this kind
Flannel.
of power clothing of very red shirts.
Yeah. Very
Actually,
good.
two guys, right? They are kind of mirroring each other. One has a blazer and one not, but both have red shirts underneath.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is
It could
something
be a little
about
bit of
that.
a stare down power struggle.
From the two of
On
them.
the opposite ends, yeah, from the
Opposite.
opposite ends of the table. I think they need
And
more diversity in here. I mean, I see men and women,
men.
Mm-hmm.
but I don't see.
There's one black guy.
Yep, but I
Erin?
think.
Well, the age is pretty much the same.
Oh, very good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good
Mm.
observations. Yeah.
I wonder what they would think
Wonderful.
about that statement. So, I'm at least 10 years younger than him.
Yeah. I'm loving these observations. So
Yeah,
now
yeah,
let
yeah.
me invite you all to go one level deeper. So now we've looked at the very obvious outward symbols. Now let's go
The top of the
deeper,
iceberg.
as we exactly.
I said the top of the
exactly.
iceberg. Let's go below the iceberg.
Exactly. So let's maybe look at what could be the underlying company values or the company culture that you may be able to observe through being in a meeting like this, through what they say, what they do. I'm going to play this
Or
again
whatever you wanna call
from
it.
where we left
I
off.
hate the word boss, but not the kind of person that is ever.
I should stop calling you that.
You can call me whatever you want to call me with the amount of agents that you keep bringing aboard and the amount of new business that's hitting the board. Just don't call me darling. Darling. That's what I'm calling you, David Allen Coates. But so the fundamentals, me as a owner, I try to put on the wall no negativity. I just can't stand negativity. I mean, I cannot stand it. I cannot stand it in any shape, form, or fashion. I mean, I just can't stand it. And having any kind of negativity in the office is just, something that I try not to do. Even though I may be as aggravated as I can be at somebody, I'm going to do my best to always do what Chris did. You know, smile.
That's true.
It's not easy doing what I've been doing for 20 years, but when the money hits the bank, it becomes very easy, you know? That's why I'm doing all this. Not just to make money for myself, but to make money for other people and help other people make money. So take care of yourself, because soon as you are lazy and you're not feeling good and you ate that burger at lunch and you ate that sirloin steak at Saltgrass, you know how the rest of your day is going to be. It's not freaking rocket science. You're going to feel like shit. I mean, I've never seen somebody that could eat a burger at lunch and then feel good, you know, in the high energy industry that we're in. I'm not telling you what to eat. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just advising you. So what we're going to do is we're going to touch base.
Okay. Let's talk about what we've heard and what we've observed beneath the layer.
And
I
I
can't
see,
be
I
who
hear smile, I hear giggles or something, snickers, so that could be an indication.
Go ahead. Who
Yeah,
wants to
I
go?
can't be who I want, who I am, if I have
Ah.
any negative feelings whatsoever. And
Uh-huh.
he is telling me what to eat. He's not. I'm not telling you what to
Yeah.
eat. He's telling me what
Whether
not.
he realizes
Uh-huh.
it or not. Yes.
And
Yeah.
for somebody who is supposed to be against negativity, he spends a lot of time and rants a lot about negativity. So there is that mixed messages.
Very nice. Very good.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to comment on when he said, when he talks about how he wants to be addressed, he opens the floor for very flat hierarchies. You can call me what you want. You don't need to call me boss. And I could see a couple of the men smiling at that, and the women stayed a lot more serious.
Very good
So
observation, Sandra.
I would also wonder, you know, how how inclusive it is for all genders and working with him, whether he treats men more like him, like buddies closer to him, and whether women have to bridge a bigger gap to get noticed and to collaborate with him.
You notice there's only
Very good.
3 women in this group too. It's very
Oh,
male
that's pretty good.
dominated.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, half the team.
Not even half.
Yeah, for a marketing company,
observation.
right?
Yeah, a third. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. What else? What else are you feeling? Sabra, Helena. Let's hear from you too.
Well, for all the money he says he's making, it seems very cheaply run. I mean, there's everybody brings in their own drink. It looks not quite shabby, but very fly by night. I mean, that's
Yeah,
just
even
my
the size of
intuitive.
the meeting room.
Yeah, claustrophobic. Okay. Windowless. Terrible.
Okay,
On the verge
Helena?
of not so professional.
Yeah, the same. The
Okay.
room doesn't look attractive.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Amazing observations. Anything else?
I mean, at the same time, we can say, we make the money and we funnel the money somewhere else. We are not throwing it out a window on meeting room that will be standing empty at 99% of the time or something along those lines, right? So it's kind of a mixed bunch. Difficult.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to
That's
be
a nice different
expensive to have more charm.
Or charm, no. More
Maybe.
space, probably, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, these are some fantastic observations. Go ahead. Somebody had something to say.
But it actually does say something about it's very sterile. So it's not they're not trying to make it look like home or cozy, or it's very much, it seems like they're about the work, right, and about the money, not about making people feel good at work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think you could imagine behind these glass frosted windows, it is white, sterile cubicles.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, it's a marketing company, a marketing organization. So you would imagine there should be some creativity or some enthusiasm out there. But okay,
Something to get them
no, great
excited.
observations.
Sorry, there is one more thing that just occurred to me now. It almost
Yeah?
feels like there is a front bench and back bench. And the front bench is
Ah.
drinking their or have their drinks with them, and the back bench doesn't.
Oh, interesting.
That's a
Oh.
new observation. Very
The
good
the three
Yes.
people
observation.
and the three people in the back, yeah, they may
Yeah.
be like a negativity because of the way they're sitting and this guy that's like looking in your eye,
Yeah.
he doesn't even have a notebook, and I think that's it's a rebellion.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good observation.
What if half of these
Okay.
people are seasoned and the other ones are new?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Like then they go into a
Yep.
breakout session of, okay, you seasoned people, let's tell what the newbies in the back here should be getting ready to do.
Oh, good one.
I don't know.
That's a good one, Erin.
Or
It could be
the
so,
seasoned
yeah.
people in the back.
Who do not need the notebooks, right, to be
Or
ready,
yeah,
right?
vice versa, right?
Oh,
Those that are already seasoned don't need
Yeah,
to take
yeah.
notes.
And just
So at this
for
point, of course, go ahead.
yeah, go
Sabra,
ahead.
go ahead. Sorry.
I just said for a marketing company, there's no consumer pictures, no product pictures. I mean, this could be Finance Inc. It could be any kind of company with
No.
that weird, is that an umbrella in their logo? I don't know. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
they're not using any marketing skills on themselves.
Yeah. Oh, very good observation.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah.
So they may be just
Yeah.
only doing telemarketing and they have to phone people and sell them things over the
Yeah.
phone all day.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. At this point, we're observing, we're speculating some, so in this exercise is really, there is a lot of reading between the lines here, reading the air. But keep in mind, there's also, what we are focusing on also shows a little bit about ourselves. We're bringing ourselves and looking through our own cultural lenses, our own personality lenses at our situation. So we may be dealing with, Sandra, you may be very, very passionate about equality at the workplace, inclusion, and that's what strikes you the most at that point, right? And that's true for all of us. We all have those points that we are focusing on, and that's absolutely fair to do that, right? But it's important to also keep in mind that it says as much about ourselves as what we're observing. Now, if we were to take you through cultural dimensions, we would hear things like, oh, the guy talks a lot about himself. I. There's no we in this situation, right? There's a lot of I being used. So there's a lot of talk about money, right? What does that say about the culture that they're in, right? A lot of performance and things like that. So there are a lot of indicators of what the culture might be at this point in time. And this you cannot do anywhere in a traditional program. You cannot immerse people unless you get permission from a company to go in there, and how time consuming is that, right? But we are able to transport them to any available meeting room as long as we have access to the resources.
And I take it
I hope
these are actors. This is not a real company. This was created for training purposes.
Actually, Sabra, I recently looked up the DFS marketing YouTube video with the purpose of finding the same video, and I noticed that there were several others from the same company. So I think, and with the same person talking. So I don't think they're actors. It's actually a real thing.
Okay. That's
I'm
not scary.
noticing, don't two of them
Yeah.
have iWatches on? So I just was looking to see, because there was no phone, right? Maybe they were told not to bring in a phone or a computer, but
Yeah.
two of them had looked like iWatches on, so can't be that. Look like
Hey.
iWatches.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I
Yeah.
agree. At least two people had iWatches in the back bench.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Crikey.
Okay. Beautiful, beautiful observations. Thank you for your active participation in that exercise. So we're going to go to the next part of it. Because basically we're talking about how there's no good or bad culture, right? That's not the purpose of a cross-cultural competence training. You're not looking at there. We all have preferences, of course. We would like to work in a more gender diverse atmosphere. We would like to work in an atmosphere which is a little less eye-focused, perhaps. But we all have preferences, but there's no real good or bad culture. It's just that what we observe, and it's different, right? And this is typically how one of these models would look when we talk about cultural differences. We have data out there that we can measure and we can use to talk about the relative difference between the two cultures. So we never talk about good and bad cultures. It's only the distance between the cultures and what can you do about that. With that in mind, what we're going to do is a little line dance. Right? We've looked at the we've taken a look at the different cultures represented here. Helena, we haven't put Switzerland because I think we got notifications you're joining a bit too late for that. But we've got Germany, India, the United States. Any other culture missing here that we've not represented other than Switzerland? Okay. Good.
So
And now
with that,
we can't go into deep explanations, or we don't have time for deep explanations of the dimensions of host data, but we will talk about one dimension, which is power distance. Basically, it's how hierarchical or otherwise a culture is. And what does that mean when you relate to one another, when you work with one another? So for this purpose, we've pulled up Hofstede's data on Germany, the United States, and India. You see that Germany and the United States score quite similar. Helena, Switzerland scores quite similar there as well. So all three of these cultures are pretty much below 50s, in their 35, 38, and 40. Whereas India, on the other hand, is a very hierarchical culture. Yeah, Renu and I come from India, very hierarchical. It's what we call a high power distance culture. So what we're going to do with this line dance is we're going to pull up the flags of who would like to take part in this exercise, in this line dance. We would like
and come hop on the stage.
Yeah. Just hop on. You can maybe, pull up your own flag and carry it with you as you go. Sandra, I see you here. I think we have the Germany flag there, but not the UK one. We chose Germany.
No, that's fine.
So I'm going to got the Germany, and then we can make it slightly bigger, Sandra. Just pull on both sides of it.
Oh, we'd like to get an American representative up here.
Slightly smaller. Okay, so that it doesn't cover the whole thing.
How do you want
Slightly. I didn't want. Okay, someone from the U.S. And take your flag, and then one of us will. And what we're going to do is.
Sabra, do you want to go up?
I'm so terrible at navigating. I will try.
Yeah, this is good practice then.
Okay, Divya, I'm going to put a 0 here.
Yep, 100 going up here.
Unless, wait, hold on. I may need to move it a little bit. Let me check. How far am I? A little bit more. Wait.
Okay, so I will bring that Indian flag way over here. So in terms of scores, we're using a linear scale of 0 to 100. So the United States and Germany would be on this side. And I will just take the Indian flag way over there.
Yep. Whoop. And we're about, Erin, if you could stay around the 40 mark, so and Sandra is the German around. So Sandra and Erin, to start with, will be closer to each other.
Yeah.
And Sabra.
We're doing it together.
So the 100 is over there.
Yeah.
So probably somewhere around where Sabra is standing right now. Huh? Is that the 40?
And Ola?
Yeah. Let me just go back there and take a look at it.
Do you want a flag,
we
Ola?
I haven't seen
Yeah.
a Polish flag, which is
Ah,
probably one
Ah,
I could have used, but when
So
looking at those,
yeah.
then other than that, then I am based in Germany, so that's the closest otherwise.
Okay. Yeah. I think if you would like, without the Polish flag, I
there
can
you go.
say that the Poland scores around 60 on
Thank you.
this, Ola. So you can place yourself
a little
maybe
bit, yeah.
closer to India.
So without a flag, maybe if you want, okay, you can, yeah, you
Yeah.
can come here.
Okay.
Um, and
Erin,
I
you would
think,
come closer to Sabra because Germany and the United States are more together there in terms of power distance.
In between.
Okay. You can just stand together there, Erin and Sabra
All right, I'm coming.
and Sandra. Yeah.
uh, I think Sandra is taking which flag, Sandra? The German?
So this should be my German flag here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh God, have I made it really big? Sorry about
No,
that.
that's just fine. Okay, let's do this exercise very quickly. So this exercise is just to help us understand the relative distance between one another, right? So for example, let's share stories. So Renu, you can be the representative from India. Let's share stories from the United States, Poland, India, and Germany about how a typical manager would behave and how hierarchy would be in a culture like that, right? Maybe you want to start, Renu, maybe you can go first.
Yeah.
How would a typical manager behave in India?
So here you would see that it's kind of towards the this end, the 70 end of it, and typically in an Indian company, there's a lot more authority from the manager, and the other employees look to him to kind of see in what direction he's going, and before they even voice their disagreement in the meeting. So I've often seen that there's a meeting after a meeting in India because you don't want to say something to against a manager in the meeting, which leads quite well to the power distance being towards the higher side in India. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Renu. And remember when we talk about typical behavior, and of course in every culture there are all kinds of individuals and individual styles can be different depending on personality, but it's the general tendency, right, of how things are. A typical behavior, a typical managerial behavior in India, it's not that everybody will be the same. How about Erin or Saber from the United States perspective? How would that be?
Yeah,
A
I think
management
we,
style?
we, we more talk about teams. So
Mhm.
the leader would start out with we, and I want to hear from you. I mean, I assign 30 professors to classes every semester. And I'm always like, well, these are my thoughts. What do you think? And except the professor from Bangladesh, he's like, no, 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 you tell me.
Nice one.
Yeah, coming close. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right, right.
Very good. Very good.
Oh,
Ola, can you tell
Ola?
us from the Polish perspective for now? How would that be? How would the typical management style be?
Yeah. It there will be elements that are enhancing the power distance also in what are the privileges of a manager.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what manager can allow him or herself to do or not to do. And to some extent it also means that sometimes it's not okay to admit that you don't know, which can be
Aha.
very dangerous.
Ah,
But
Very good. Yeah.
and at the same time, there will be a lot of politics played around things like the right company car,
Mm-hmm.
or the right to
oh,
now home office, for example, or the office as opposed to open space. So sometimes
right.
those elements will also have an influence
Yeah.
on. And the communistic past also doesn't help. So uh, the debating or agreeing with the team is a hard learned skill that only the newer or younger managers might have, but there were not very many places to learn it from.
Yeah, very good example, Ola. Thank you so much for sharing. Sandra, from your perspective, the
Yes.
German side, how would a
Yeah.
typical manager behave?
So working in Germany-based organizations, what you find is, especially more in the last 20 years, it's become very common that everybody uses the informal way of addressing each other. The German language allows for a more formal way to address each other and the less formal one. So the less formal du has become very, very common. So it probably used to be an indicator of power distance in the past, but that's been eradicated. It's quite interesting. I currently work with a German company and I work with 5 different teams there, and there's only one team manager who is not from a German cultural background who insists on being addressed with a formal Sie, and everybody else is on terms of du, and that's not very easy to facilitate in conversations. And yeah, similar to the American culture, a lot about the team idea, achieving things together, the manager more being a facilitator for and a coach for the success of others.
Right, right. Very good examples. Erin, did you have something to add there from the American
No,
perspective?
in my previous life, I didn't manage any people, but I did appreciate when a manager was team focused to find out what our strengths would be, and then where it kind of fits. So I appreciate that part.
Keep in mind, this is only one dimension we're talking about. There's several others that come into play in terms of what a manager, how a manager behaves. But in terms of the line dance, I would like all of you to take one step closer to one another. We're going to see what it is to meet each other in the middle. So if Reinu and Ola, you can go towards the left, and Sandra, Sabra, and Erin towards the middle. And then think a little bit about how you would behave, or how would you meet the other person in the middle if you were a manager going from your country or your culture to the other. So maybe I can start with Reinu and Ola. How would you behave if you were managers, say you were typical Indian managers or Polish managers going to the United States or Germany? How would you adjust your style? Because it's not really about completely becoming German or American, because then you would lose your authenticity. How would you change practices to meet the other in the middle?
Yeah, and I think the first step really is to be conscious of the differences, that there is a difference. And once that is a little bit ingrained, then it would be to observe how the typical, American meeting happens, and possibly asking a few more, welcoming ideas from a few more people rather than telling them what to do. So I think changing the style, which might be a little uncomfortable, but still asking for feedback and taking them in the meeting and being more open would be something that could help me. And so that would be a step that as an Indian manager I could take.
How about you, Ola?
From the Polish perspective, I think the we language would have been probably the first shift as opposed to I language, and also asking for input and opinion first before expressing mine. That would be the tweaks that will get me closer to.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. How about from the egalitarian side? How about Erin, Sandra, and Sabra? What would you do if you were going to India or Poland to be a manager? Keep in mind that they're used to more hierarchical style. The manager comes with the responsibilities. The manager is the person who is in charge, gives the directions. How would you adapt your style?
An initial thought for me is maybe also to find out actually who's giving me my direction.
Very good.
Yeah, so not to be too initiative. in setting out
Ah.
direction based on past experience. Just kind of pressing ahead with what I always do, but maybe consulting with a few people first. Who do I need to speak to? Who's giving me my direction that I then pass on, just assuming I'm not joining as a chief executive. And I was also thinking along the lines of keeping my judgments in check, because I can see how from a certain cultural perspective, for example, if people are more respectful of hierarchy, we might look down on that, seeing that as a kind of a sense of immaturity and old-fashioned. And to see the value in that and why it's important and trying to understand that. Yeah.
Right. Very nice. Thank you, Sandra.
Yeah.
Erin,
Yeah.
Sabra, anything from you?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Erin.
But that's okay.
Go ahead.
I was thinking that I think I would maybe start out with Sandra's lead on who am I reporting to, but at the same time sharing that we have maybe some templates that have been successful, but wanting to hear successes of the other team members, why they felt it was successful, and is that something that we could mirror or tweak to be successful here?
Right. Right. Great. Thanks, Erin. Sabra?
So I'm just saying I have had a real life experience where I was asked to India to train in studying petroleum people, and maybe I did it wrong, but I was teaching teamwork. So I started out the session explaining that I invited them to come into the American way of looking at management. So they So, I recognize that their style probably would be different, and just I think by identifying the difference and inviting to play act for a while in this other mode.
Wonderful. Yep. Thank you, everybody, for line dancing that way, because the whole purpose is to meet each other in the middle, not judge the others for their preferred way of being. That was our line dance. Of course, this can be done in a traditional setting, if it's a classroom setting with a lot of people, but it's so much fun in VR where you can record and play it back and take those cases with you. So thank you for participating in that. You can all come back now.
Any thoughts from the audience? I think there was Karen and Helena, right? Any comments?
No.
Okay.
I thought it was interesting when you asked those who were used to a more egalitarian to see whether they assumed the position of the manager or the subordinate in their answer, because in their backgrounds that would have been, they might have shown up the same whether they were with their bosses or whether they were with their subordinates. But if it is a high power distance, then their response would need to be informed by which end of that power distance they were on.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Amanda. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Any
I also want to add that in, no, I wanted to add that in most often, though we start from what might be the norm, we're all really doing that line dance. And so we're all, because of our learned experiences, and we're all having some experience that might take us away from the norm, we actually do that every time we interact with another culture. So this line dance is happening all the time in our own experiences and where we've lived and where we work. So it's very interesting to see that play out as well.
Absolutely. So just going back to the cultural competencies that we're able to put participants back in thanks to VR. You already did some of reading the air through the meeting room. You did look at being in other's shoes by listening to each other's perspectives, so typical managerial behavior. How would you adapt the style? All the while keeping middle ground, right? Really not getting judgmental. And that was the whole purpose of the line downs. So those are some of the competencies we really can put people into in VR and also measure that through using our record and playback feature by repetition, by really helping participants practice these competencies within a safe space. Any questions you have for us?
All right. That's great. And so we have a couple of minutes left. I just want to share that for those of you who want to explore cross-cultural competence in VR, Divya and I run a 4-week session and kind of taking you through step by step. The first session really, what is culture, understanding values through a very interesting exercise. And then we, over session 2 and 3, we use some of the activities that we've given you a sneak peek at and try and really delve into each of them deeper. And then when we come to the end through a framework, we can exchange ideas and come up with best practices in a shared space. So it really doesn't matter where we are and where you're dialing from, whether you're calling in from, as we are now, whether it's in the US or Europe or anywhere else, you really can come up with some shared ideas and a framework to take back and use. So reach out to either of us if you'd like to take that into your organizations or use that in your work. I know Sandra was part of one of our programs earlier, and we really enjoyed having her there. And so if you do want to take this 4-week program, we'd be happy to, it's on demand, really. So we do that as there's interest. We'd be happy to, yeah.
Can I just, it's either a comment or a question, because I'm seeing some research now that diversity training is not really working. What proof is there that cross-cultural training actually does change behaviors, in any modality?
Yeah, I think the quick way to answer that, Sabra, would be diversity training. What have we been hearing about DEI initiatives, for the past decade, less, right? And we're already hearing about fatigue related to that is really not working. I think the easiest way to answer your question is that cross-cultural competence training has been going on for the past 30 years, starting with Hofstede's research and even before that, and it's still on demand in companies. So companies really actively put money into helping their multicultural teams communicate better and work together. The other big area we see is expat coaching. So that's something that I do regularly. Yep. That's a big chunk of our work with Reno as well. Yep. So when expats move from one culture to the other, there's research that shows that is the biggest failure, that they're unable to cope with the cultural change. And companies actively invest money in coaching the expat through the process. So the fact that companies are still willing to invest that and there's no questions asked about it, I think is proof enough that it works.
Great. So we'd invite you all to come join us in this program or share this with anyone else you might know. So please reach out to us if you'd like to spread the VR magic in your network.